Welcome back to another episode of Maintenance with Mike. So for this video, we're going to show you how to install a speed controller up at the helm or the captain's chair so you can control the speed of your kicker motor, because when you're up where the fish finder is and stuff and you're steering the boat from there, because we do hook up the kicker motor to the large motor so we can actually steer it from the helm. It's kind of annoying when you want to speed up or slow down to have to come back and adjust the tiller handle speed. So we're going to show you how to wire in a controller that you can mount underneath the dash, and you can just reach down and turn a little knob and it'll increase and decrease the speed of your trolling or kicker motor. So let's get started. So I'm going to put links in the description to a few of the items that can be purchased on Amazon. A couple of the other items, I think the servo controller has to be purchased from an actual website, not through Amazon. And the Trollmaster linkage for specific motors has to be purchased through, I think it's CMP, which is a Canadian company as well. I'll put the links for all these things here. So the linkage changes depending on the manufacturer. So you could go to this website that I'll put in the link, and for my case, the Trollmaster linkage and brackets and all that stuff to hook up the servo to the throttle linkage is good for Tohatsu, Mercury, 4, 5, and 6 horsepower. So that's a common bracket for this motor. There's lots of other ones listed there as well. Yamaha, Suzuki. You can purchase these kits as well to connect the servo to the throttle linkage. So we'll show you how this one is specifically, but it's sort of a general thing. It's the instructions show you how to hook up the linkage for each manufacturer. So let's start by showing the controller at the helm. And we'll show you where that sits and how it's wired and how I chose to wire mine, either ignition power or non-ignition power directly off the battery. In my case, I wired it directly off the battery because when I'm using the trolling motor, I don't want the ignition on at all, because the fish finder is direct off the battery. And with this being direct off the battery, then I don't have to have the ignition turned on to use the kicker and steer it and speed it up or slow it down. To me, that made more sense. You may have to have the ignition on in order to have your fish finder working. That's fine as well. I just thought for me, it was a better option to have the controller run directly off the battery, so the controller will work no matter if the ignition key is on or off. So that's the way I chose to do it, and I'm going to show you, now that I've explained why I did it that way, I'm going to show you how it's wired up. Okay, so I'm gonna swivel the seat around here. And you can see my fish finder and all that stuff here. So let's bring you right in the boat. So as I was mentioning, with the key in the off position, my fish finder still comes on. I can still turn it on and access it directly from the battery. It is actually controlled by the battery, the electric trolling battery in the front. It is not connected to the starter battery in the back. Reason being is I just don't want a bunch of load off the starter battery. I don't want to have the fish finder on all day and end up killing it. So again, my choice. You may not choose to do that, but it's up to you. So here's the fish finder, and obviously if we're up here and the small motor is connected to the big motor and we're steering it, then it's nice to be able to watch the fish finder and steer. But it is also nice to be able to increase or decrease your trolling speed for obvious reasons. So underneath here is where this little dial is. So I'm going to take you down there and put a light on it and show you where this servo tester or electric controller is. Okay, so just so you know where we are, here's the steering wheel. We're underneath the helm, and this is mounted on the bulkhead where here's the throttle here. So it's down underneath here. So you can just reach underneath here with your hand, and this is this is the dial that you can use to turn. You might not be able to hear that. But it is actually activating the throttle in the kicker motor. We always have it set to pulse on the screen. It says pulse. You can change between modes here. It's all in the manual. Analog, digital. It's always at pulse 1000 I leave it at. So this cable here is the black and red, which is the power for this GT Power servo tester. And on this side, it's really tough to see. There's so many wires here. This little connector here that plugs in the side, that's the servo tester. And it is, you only need 3 wires. It's the positive and negative that runs to the servo and the control, which is your input, your signal. So it's only 3 wires. And basically what it is this little connector comes with the servo tester. So I took that little connector and soldered it to the 4 wire, which is in the Amazon link, that runs to the back. So 1 wire is a spare. The other is positive, negative, and control. So we're going to go back to the motor now and pull that cover off and show you where this wire comes into the motor. Okay, so let's pull this cover off. So here you'll see, here's the linkage that comes from TrollMaster. And pretty simple setup. Here's your carburetor. Let me just quickly bring you in here and show you. So in here is our connection. Let me actually show you that. I'm gonna pull this tape off here. Once I figure out where they started the tape from, I'll retape it up again. I just want to show you how I tied this cable into the new one here. There's the start there. Should have had a little flag there, but anyway. We'll tape this up again. We're done. I'm hoping I actually heat shrink these, which I did. So there you see the 3 heat shrinks. There you go. That tells you enough right there. So let's pull that tape off. I'll tape this back up again. So coming from the front, here's the 4-wire cable. So as far as the cable coming from the front, it comes on this, it's basically taped or tie wrapped to this fuel line, and it comes out from the splash well here underneath the deck. This is the 4-wire cable right here. It comes underneath the motor and goes up one of these small drain holes in the motor in the bottom. This is that cable there. There's a number of other drain holes that are still open, so we're not causing any issue there. So you can see here, one of the wires is taped off because it's, like I said, it's a 4-wire. Here's your negative, your positive, and your control signal. So the yellow in the 4 conductor goes to the yellow on the servo, and the positive coming from the controller goes to the orange on the actual servo, and the negative coming from the controller goes to the brown on the servo. So here's the actual linkage. So this steel linkage here is from Trollmaster, and it mounts actually right onto the this part of the engine here, this mount. So it's a nice rigid mount. I believe the gears in these servos from Trollmaster are brass. They're not plastic. Pretty heavy duty. This linkage here is what connects it to the throttle. So the nice thing with this is you can still control the fuel input to the kicker. If something failed or the controller wasn't working, or in an emergency situation, you can still grab this tiller handle and shut the fuel off or increase the speed. So that does not, the controller does not override the tiller handle. So that's actually a nice feature. You can have that as well still. So I'm going to jump inside and show you how, when I turn the controller knob that's underneath the helm, how this servo reacts. So if you watch the action here of the throttle, here's the carburetor, right? The tiller handle, these cables pull this cam, and that's what increases and slows down the tiller. So I'm going to show you how this does the exact same thing with the servo tester up at the helm. I'm going to sit in the chair here. I'm going to reach underneath and grab this little wheel. That's right here, and turn it. See that? So that's just turning that little speed controller or servo tester. That's just turning that little dial back and forth, and that speeds up or slows down the kicker motor from the front, which is excellent. Works really well. It's a really nice feature to have. Of course, it would be nice to be able to take it out of gear and go to neutral in some cases, but you would have to run a whole new separate controller, throttle controller, and have 2 throttles side by side there. For me, I think this is a perfect solution to having to come forward and back to adjust the tiller handle to be able to control the speed from the helm. These are all heat shrink soldered and heat shrink, so those connections are good. Okay, we'll put this little protecting piece on as well. Probably not required, but it's nice to have a little bit of extra protection there from things rubbing. I don't think it really matters too much, but so there you have it. That is how I installed a servo tester or controller at the helm to be able to speed up or slow down via this servo on the throttle linkage on my kicker motor. I would consider this a fairly complex install for some people. You know, you need to be able to know where your constant power is, your 12-volt power, versus your ignition 12-volt power, which would mean fuse is controlled by ignition or not controlled by ignition. You need to know how to find those items up at the fuse panel. You need to know how to solder and heat shrink and terminate wires together. The instructions are pretty good for the Trollmaster kit on how all this linkage goes together. Like I said, it's specific to each brand. This bracket is for Tohatsu and Mercury 4, 5, and 6 horsepower. And then obviously if you have a 9.9 kicker, there's a different part number for a bracket that connects because the internals of the motor are different, right? So I hope this helps a lot of people. I've definitely had some people questioning or asking me how I did this and wanted me to do a video on it. So here it is. I hope it helps a few people out, and I'm super happy with it. I love being able to just sit there and turn up the little dial there and go faster or slower for trolling. It's a much better experience than having to come back and adjust the tiller handle. Again, though, there's nothing wrong with having just a tiller handle, but the nice thing with this is you can still speed up and slow down using the tiller handle as well as the control, the way they've got the linkage here. So really nicely done. All the Amazon links and website links for all these parts I'll put in the description. I want to thank you for watching another episode of Maintenance with Mike. If you like these videos, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Maybe share them with a family member or friend. And we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.